Welcome back to the AYN Thor setup series, and today we're going to be setting up the Nintendo Switch. So for Switch emulation, just before we download our emulator, which is going to be Eden, we're going to need to make sure that we have a few things. So I've already downloaded these. So I have a game, obviously, which is in an NSZ format, which I'll cover later. But we're going to need primarily our prod keys and our firmware. So these are the versions that I'm using. I can't link these directly, but they're quite easy to find. So just use the latest version or whatever you find online. Now I've also got this app here called Flutter Switch Manager, which I will leave a link to in the description. This will convert our NSZ files to NSP, because NSZ files can't be natively read by Eden. So before we download Eden, I'm just going to press and hold our product keys and I'm going to extract them, because we need to actually use these for the setup process. We don't need to extract the firmware. Eden will handle that for us. So we're going to go to Obtainium. We're going to go to Eden. We're going to install it. Nice and simple. So now that's done, we're going to open it up and we're just going to go through the setup wizard. So for notifications, we're going to allow them. For our emulator data, so this is why we need to make sure you have your keys, your firmware available beforehand. So we're going to set our keys, which is in my downloads and then my keys folder. So we'll do the prod keys. You don't need the title keys, just the prod keys, but they do tend to come together. Firmware, we're going to go back to downloads and we're just going to grab that zip folder. That's the firmware installed. And for games, I'm just going to point this at my Switch folder in my ESDE layout. Obviously, there's no games in here yet because we do need to convert them. So we'll enable deep scan as well. There we are. So we're going to go through the settings first. So we're going to press this little settings cog up here. So we're going to go to advanced settings and we're going to go to graphics. Now, some people have reported that if you set the graphics to 1.25, things run better. And of the games I've tried and run, they do look good. Whether that's a result of that, I don't know. So you can try that, or you could just try it at the 1 resolution if you so like. For performance overlay, I'm going to disable that. I don't need it. And the same for device overlay. We also don't need an input overlay. We're going to configure our controls shortly. And then that's all we need for our advanced settings. So you can change the look of the app if you so wish. I tend to use a front end which directs games automatically to Eden, so I don't tend to actually see any of these menus once I've set this up. So we're going to map our controls. So nice and easy, we're just going to use a Pro controller and we can auto map the controller. So we'll just double check that everything appears to match up. It should do because it's the same layout as a Pro controller would be. So it all seems good. Obviously, if you do get any weirdness, then you can come in here and update them. Now for our GPU driver manager, this is where we're going to get our Turnip drivers. And these have probably the biggest impact on Switch that I've found. I find that some games won't even run without them. So we're just going to hit fetch and it's going to grab the ones we need. So it will recommend the Mr. Purple Turnip for the AYN Thor, which is a great one. So it says T23 there, but you can just grab the latest. We'll get the T28. Obviously, there's been quite a few updates. So we'll press show downloads and we'll grab that one. If you have one already downloaded, you can use our install, and we can also grab, if I go to my documents, I've got the Steven MXE one as well. So now they're both installed, I can just switch between them if I need to. You can import or export data, you can import or export your save data, you can install game content or DLC. This will install it directly into Eden itself. However, there was an update recently that allows you just to point at a folder. If you need to update the firmware or the prod keys, then you can do that there as well. Or if you've got some amiibo keys, then you can install them using this section. Okay, so let's look at our game. So I've got Super Mario Odyssey. So if I open that up, you'll see I've got 2 files in here. The larger one is the game itself, and the smaller one is an update. If I just try and copy this across to my Switch ROMs folder, which I've pointed Eden at, it's not going to find anything. This is because NSZ files are heavily compressed and can't be recognised. This is where our app Flutter Switch Manager comes in. So we're going to extract this zip file, and then we're just going to install it. So there we've got our NSZ Decompressor. So now we're going to open it up. It's going to download the necessary files that it needs. So once we've booted into the NSZ Decompressor, we're going to head up to our little settings cog, and then here we're going to set our output directory. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to set it to the Switch ROMs folder. There we are. You can delete the source files on success, however, I wouldn't do this until you verified that the NSP files actually work. So I'm going to leave that off for now. Then if we head over to our little wrench, we're going to press there, we're going to go to our decompressor, and then we're going to add some files to our queue. So in our downloads, we'll get the game. It'll take a second to add it to the queue. And then we're going to get our DLC as well. So make sure your output directory is set, and then just press start. So this could take a while. It's going to take around about 10 minutes or so. Obviously, if you have a PC, there are similar tools available to convert NSC to NSP, and they are much faster on PC. But for being able to do this on the device itself, this app is great. So I'm going to come back in about 10 minutes, and then we'll have a look at the NSP file. Okay, there we are. So what I've done is I've got my NSP files in here. I've got my game and also my update. I've just made a couple of folders because originally you had to install your DLC and updates into the NAND on Eden, which is like the internal system files. However, you no longer have to do that. So I've just made a little folder, so I'm just going to drag my update file into there, move it to there. So now we're going to head back to Eden, and you can see I've got my game there. So before we dive in, I'm going to press settings, and I'm just going to go to my game folder. I'm going to edit that folder. I'm going to make sure that deep scan is enabled, because what this will do is it will scan all the folders in the file. So if I press and hold, you can see our add-ons. We've got update 1.4.1, which is the one that is found inside the file. So let's boot it up. So here we are in game, and it's running pretty well. We're getting some good frame rate. Temperatures are about where they should be, 70 to 80 degrees, which is fine. I know a lot of people tend to panic. I will be covering cluster tune in a future video, which helps us underclock the device. However, you can see that it's running pretty well. Now, not every Switch game is going to work. Some of them might stutter or have graphical issues, or might not even boot at all. In which case, you can try different Turnip drivers, you can look online, but the nature of emulation, not everything is going to work perfectly. However, Super Mario Odyssey looks like it's running pretty well. If you like this video, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe. I've got tons of Thor videos coming out over the next few months, so you'll definitely want to be stay tuned for those. If you've got any questions, then please drop a comment below, and I will see you next time.